Our family, just to give you just a quick snapshot of the kind of drama that may go on for us. My wife and I both come from families where both of our parents are still married, which is really, really incredible. And they're all wonderful people. But on my wife's side, she is from East Texas, which is where Casey Musgraves and Miranda Lambert are from. So those are like crazy country women. And so my wife has some crazy country women in her family that, what's the word? Drink a lot, that's the word. And it's changed the dynamic of going back home for her. In fact, last year, there was just so much drama surrounding what was gonna happen and was the particular family member that has the most trouble drinking too much going to be around, because there was recently an arrest and we weren't sure if all the family was going to be together. And I'm trying to be specific and yet also very vague all at the same time, because it's still a situation, and that's the way family is. And it created all of this drama in my wife's heart, and it just changed her mood about going back home. My family, it's a little bit different. There is a chance that someone will drink too much, and that definitely clouds the good time that everybody's wanting to have. But for me, it's a little odd. It's more of I'm a professional Christian, so this problem I feel like is particular for a professional Christian. So I do church for a living. That's what I do. That's my day job, okay? And my parents grew up, they raised us in church, and I would say they have a faith, but they don't really go to church anymore. And so whenever I bring up church, it just immediately gets hostile. And they'll come back with, well, who are you to judge? And what are you even asking us about? And remember that we wiped your butt when you were a baby, and we raised you, and we helped you pay for your life, which is all true, but it just changes the dynamic. And so the idea of not talking about politics with family is real in our home. And my wife always reminds me, hey, remember, this Christmas, please don't bring up anything political. And honestly, I am just not as extreme politically as my parents, and it makes me want to lean the other direction. And so sometimes I just poke and prod them just to have fun with it. I just love quoting Michelle Obama or President Obama around my parents because they're not fans. And so there's something about it that makes me just want to antagonize. Is anybody else that way, that you know what your parents are like, and so you just want to poke their buttons? And that's where I am. But then on the other side, I can't also talk about religion. So those are the two things. As we're driving down I-20 toward my parents' house, my wife is just over and over again remember, no religion, no politics for the next 5 days. Got it? Deal. And honestly, we have a really great family. I feel like it's pretty awesome, but it's not perfect. Nobody's family is perfect. And so what I want to do over the next few minutes that we have, first of all, I want to engage you in a discussion. So I'm going to put a phone number up here. This is it. Holla at your boy, if you would. If you got a question, if you have a scenario, if you have something that you want to ask, if something hits you the wrong way, if something makes you think about something that you want to ask, I would love for you to take this number down and hit me up on the hip, and I'll text you back. So, no, we'll answer the question here tonight if we can. But here's what I want to ask you. I want to start with a question that I think is a fair question. I think everybody ought to answer this question. It goes like this. What do you want most this holiday season? What do you want most this holiday season? I mean, obviously, pumpkin pancakes from Trader Joe's is top of the list for me. I buy multiple boxes any trip to Trader Joe's. Anytime somebody asks me, they're looking for a gift idea for someone else, I'm like, have you given them Trader Joe's pumpkin pancakes? Because that's the best gift of the season, IMO, in my opinion. I don't know what it is for you. I don't know what you want most this Christmas season. Maybe it's to not have to go home. Maybe it's, if you go home, for everybody to just get along. Maybe you want to go to the office Christmas party with a date. Maybe you don't want to go to the office Christmas party with the person that you're currently dating. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to have an office Christmas party. Maybe you're like, I just want a job, and that's what I want this Christmas. I don't know. but we all want different things. I'll just be real honest with you. When I think about what I want most this holiday season, I literally thought about it this week. I thought, okay, let's think about this series. Let's think about family. What do I want most in regards to family? And for me, it really is peace. I want peace. I want to have peace. I want people to be at peace with each other. I am a middle child. I have an older sister and a younger sister. And so, Mallory, you're a middle child as well. And as a middle child, I feel like I'm just naturally a peacemaker. I feel like my family fights more when I'm not there, which is fine because I want to have good relationships. I want to have peace. And what I have determined is that this is really what I want. I want peace in the relationship. I want to know that me and my dad can have a conversation about politics or about religion or about anything for that matter and not get into a really heated debate. I want to be able to have peace with my in-laws. Even though there's all kinds of drama that oftentimes takes place, I want to have peace in those relationships. I bet you do too. The problem is, for some of us and some of our relationships, that feels really difficult to think about because maybe it's just gotten so bad, or maybe you haven't spoken in a while, or maybe you just cannot tolerate this person, or maybe they drive you crazy, or maybe they're always wanting to sit you down and talk about your career plans for your life, which to me is like the greatest hell on earth. Is anytime a parent just wants to say, hey, let's talk about you and your life. Like, where's this headed? What's the future? And I'm like, I don't know, I'd rather not, you know? Maybe they're just looking for ideas though. That's what I just tell myself. I'm like, maybe my parents are just looking for ideas. And so they're coming to me. So I just take it that way. But for you, I don't know. I don't know if this feels possible or not to have peace in the relationship. Here's the hope that I want to talk about for the next few minutes is that I do believe this is possible. I believe for all of us that we can have peace about the relationship. And I think that's powerful. That I think even if you get to the end of this Christmas season and the relationship is not where you want it, and chances are everyone in the room, all skate, 100% of us, have a relationship in our life that it just isn't as peaceful as we want it to be. I still believe that there's hope because I believe that we can have peace about it. And so tonight, that's what I want to talk about specifically is what can you do to have peace about a relationship even when there's not peace in a relationship? And that's where we're going to start with this big idea of perfect family. I want to give you one verse that we're going to camp out on tonight. This, when I say verse, what I mean is I want to give you, really it's a sentence, one sentence that this gentleman named Apostle Paul, I compare him to like a Steve Jobs. As Steve Jobs is in the technology world, the Apostle Paul is in the church world. He was like the forerunner. Like he was passing out iPads before anybody even knew what an iPad was. He was starting churches before anybody even knew what a church was. I mean, this dude is a really interesting and very key figure in the history, even of our church, which is crazy. And he said a lot of different things, wrote a lot of different letters. This particular letter we're going to look at is a letter that he wrote to a bunch of Christians that were scattered throughout Rome. Rome was a very powerful community at the time, and Christians were not really sure about life. And so he was trying to encourage them and give them hope. And so here's what he wrote specifically about their relationships. This is not encouraging. This is depressing. Live at peace with everyone. Real cool, Paul. Live at peace with everyone you get along with, because that's easy. Live at peace with everyone you love. Live at peace with everyone who's not crazy. No, he says live at peace with everyone. I don't know how you feel about that. That feels next to impossible. In fact, for some of you, you're thinking about a relationship right now and you're thinking, no, genuinely, I don't think that is possible. And maybe you're even thinking, who is this guy and what does he know about peace? And what a very empty, trite, hopeful, but impossible thing to say. The interesting thing about Paul is that Paul really, I think he understood way more conflict than any one of us could understand. Anybody know anything about Paul that you want to just throw out from the crowd? What's something about Paul that was interesting? Yes. Yeah, he killed Christians. I don't know if anyone else can make that claim in here. If you can, we've got some police officers in the back that would love to chat with you. But yes, he actually, at the very least, he oversaw the persecution and the murder of anyone who claimed to follow Jesus. He grew up in a Jewish home. His name was Saul, and he was a very devout, zealous Jew. He felt like anyone who followed Jesus was a complete affront to what he believed as a Jew. He believed that anyone who followed Jesus was completely wrong, but also was dangerous. And so he would persecute Christians. So you just imagine, the majority of his life, he had people that hated him because he potentially oversaw the death of their mother or brother or father or son or daughter, cousin. There were people living, walking around that knew, yeah, that's the guy that caused my dad to die or my brother to die. And then Paul makes this radical transition in his life where he begins to believe, really overnight, believes that Jesus really is the Son of God, and everything changed about him. In fact, God gave him this new name. He was called Saul, and he began to go by the name of Paul. And so now all of a sudden, he's got friends that he had been zealous with, that he had persecuted Christians with, that he had been defending the tradition of the faith that he grew up with, who now are on the opposite side of him. So he's got peace with people that he grew up with, that he now is believing something different, who now see him the same way that he saw the people who he was persecuting. So he's got a lot of conflict there. But then on the other side, he's got people that he's now connected with because of his newfound faith who were like, no, bro, like we're not gonna be connected. Like I'm not gonna be in a prayer group with you. Like I'm not going to small group with you. I'm not gonna be in a Bible study with you. You oversaw the murder of people that I loved. And so this, when you understand the context of that, to me, it brings on a pretty powerful meaning to this. For him to say, I'm telling you, if you want to enjoy the Thanksgiving and the Christmas season, you've got to learn how to live at peace with everyone. And it's an option. It's not something that is completely impossible, and he's gonna tell us how. So here's the way the statement actually begins. It begins like this. He says, if it is possible, which I really appreciate because it just shows that the guy is not out to lunch, okay? That he does live in reality, that he's basically saying, I get it, it feels impossible, but I'm just telling you, if it is possible, which what's the flip side of if it is possible? It might not be possible, which congrats to those of you that feel like it's impossible. Paul's going, yeah, it might not be possible, but if it is possible, which reminds me of Dumb and Dumber, you know, when he's like, so you're telling me there's a chance? Like even like smallest of small, 1%, you're telling me there's any chance? And Paul's going, yeah, I'm telling you, as long as you're breathing, as long as you're alive, there's always hope. That the worst of relationships have seen reconciliation, have seen redemption, have seen hope being restored in the relationship. And as bad as your situation is, as awful as your dad is, as terrible as what your step-parent did, or as tough as your relationship is with your sibling, there's hope that maybe one day there could be peace again. And I love what he says, if it is possible. I'm telling you, please don't count out this holiday season. Maybe this is the season where peace is restored in the relationship. But he's gonna give us the ticket. He's gonna say, hey, here's what you and I are responsible for. He says, if it is possible, and then he fills in the gap here with this statement that I love. He says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you. As far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Doesn't that make so much more sense than just, hey, Hallmark card, live at peace with everyone, right? Like live at peace with everyone. Seriously? No, he's saying, look, if it's possible, meaning it may or may not be, as far as it depends on you, meaning you can't control the relationship. How many people does it take to tango? Two. It takes two people to tango. It takes two people to have a good relationship. And the other person on the other side in the relationship may be completely crazy. You might be right. Your mother may be bananas. That may be completely true, but peace is still possible if we figure out what this middle statement means, as far as it depends on you. As far as it depends on you, would you be willing to go as far as you can go and do all that depends on you? And if so, maybe there is peace. Maybe not in the relationship, but maybe peace about the relationship. I'm telling you, no matter how broken the relationship is, if you and I can figure this clause out, maybe our experience with Santa Claus this year might look a little bit different. But we got to figure out, well, what does this mean for me? If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. So let me ask you a few questions. These are pointed. I don't know you that well. Some of you are like, get out of my space, bro. Like, I don't like the plaid shirt. You always wear plaid. That bothers me. I don't know. But if you would, just maybe write these down. Think about it later. Text your sister and be like, this is something you really need to think about. I don't know, but I think these are worth asking for every single one of us. Here's the first one. How far are you going to go to experience peace in your relationships this holiday season? How far? Some of you, you've been pretty far already. Some of you are like, we would never talk if I didn't pursue the relationship. Like, he never calls. He doesn't even act like I'm alive. He forgot my birthday. He's not gonna get me anything. He's gonna tell me he got me something so that I'll get something, but then he's gonna show up and not have anything, and I'm gonna have something. So I've already gone pretty far. Well, maybe this year, maybe the one thing that you came to Nights for tonight is to allow, not me, but to allow Paul to ask you this question. Hey, I know it's a broken relationship. No family's perfect. But how far are you willing to go to experience peace? How many more steps could you take? Maybe you just say, you know what? I'm gonna go and I'm not going to bring up the past. For some of you, that's a long way. And maybe that's as far as you're willing to go. Maybe for some of you, you go, you know what? I'm just gonna go and I'm just gonna serve. That's all I'm gonna do. I'm not going to expect anything in return. I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna try to serve. It's not gonna be about what I can get. It's gonna be about what I'm going to bring, and I'm just gonna go and I'm going to serve. How far are you willing to go to experience peace in your relationships this holiday season? I don't think, unless it's an abusive relationship, unless there's physical abuse from the past even, I don't know if it's ever too far when the thing that's at stake is peace. Because peace in a relationship, it's a fantastic thing. But it's not something that we just bump into. No, in fact, with most things in life, we rarely passively find things that we're not willing to actively pursue. And peace is something that we have to actively pursue. So how far are you willing to go? Second question is, how much depends on you to experience peace in your relationships this holiday season? How much depends on you? I don't know the answer to that. Some of you are like, I mean, it's mostly his fault, or it's mostly her fault, or she's the one that's crazy, or he's the one that walked out, or they're the ones with the brokenness. They're the ones that are a mess. So nothing really depends on me because I didn't set any of this up in the first place. But in a relationship, in every good relationship, there's always something that we can own. There's always something that is our responsibility. And what is your responsibility is your attitude and the energy that you bring, even when you're wronged, even when you feel like you're not getting what you deserve, even when you feel like someone else is not getting what they deserve. You're still responsible. I'm still responsible for what I bring, the attitude I bring, and the energy I bring. At the very least, that depends on me. And I believe that depends on you as well. And maybe for some of you, Thanksgiving is such a difficult thought that the best thing you could do is just start praying right now that you would be able to sustain, that God would give you enough grace to make it. Here's what I believe. If you were to answer those two questions and go, okay, well, how far am I willing to go? How much depends on me? The difficult thing is we often look at the other person and we go, well, are they worth it? Are they doing anything in response to try to make this thing work? Fortunately, we have a God who did not treat us that way. I was on the phone this week with a lady who, she was frustrated about something, and she said, now remember, and she was talking about a group of people, and she said, remember, light doesn't mix with darkness. As in, people who have light shouldn't mix with people who have darkness. And I do agree, and we should all be responsible with who we put ourselves around, especially toxic people. However, I'm really glad that when I was in the dark, even still when I'm in the dark, God's light came and pursued me. That through Jesus, God allowed his love to come and pursue me even when I wasn't very lovable. That's the message of what we believe about the holiday season anyway, is that yes, we have a lot to be grateful for because we live in America, but we have a lot to be grateful for because we have a God who loves us, who says, I'm not gonna leave you in your state, but I'm going to come after you, not with vengeance, but in love. And he did that through his son, Jesus. And in Jesus, we celebrate God with us, that he moved into the neighborhood, that he got really personal with broken and messed up people like me and you. So how far should you be willing to go? I don't know. It doesn't depend on the other person. It really depends on how far has God gone for you. For me, God has gone really far. How much did he decide depended on him? Well, he paid for it all. He didn't ask me to pay for anything. So he took it all on himself. That's how far he went, and that's how much depended on him. And I just wonder what the holiday season would look like if you just decided, you know what? In light of what God has done for me, I'm gonna go as far as I can go, and I'm gonna take on as much as depends on me to see if I can't find some peace in the relationship, or at the very least about the relationship. Here's the big idea I wanna land on right here. If you do all you can do, you can have peace about the relationship, even if there's not peace in the relationship. I believe that if you go as far as you can go, that if you figure out what does depend on me, and you carry that, if you do all you can do, I believe you can have peace about the relationship, even if there's not peace in the relationship. We're gonna take some questions. I'd love for you to text them in. I wanna just throw this one picture up to tell you this one story before we're out of here. But on Sunday morning, my 99-year-old grandmother, Lucille, passed away. And she was about to turn 100, which we were really hoping she'd make it to 100. I don't know if you can see this picture, but she's like as dope as it gets, just like straight. Her nails are done, looking good. She's getting her hair did right here. She's drinking definitely some sweet tea, even though she shouldn't probably be kicking that sugar. And just got all her magazines just right here that she's just living large in the nursing home right before she passed away. She is one of the most incredible women that I've ever met. If you think about it, I was like doing the math today just on like what she has discovered in life. Like, what has she been through in life? Like, she was born and the mode of transportation was a horse and buggy. Like, that's crazy. Like, there wasn't even a car when she was born. And then, now here we are, and like, I couldn't even try to explain the fact that I work at a video church to her. Like, she couldn't even capture that. Like, she couldn't even understand that at all. But here's what's gonna happen tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm gonna go to this little town in Alabama, and Lord willing, I'm gonna stand up and perform her funeral, which I'm like super honored that she has asked me to do that. And we'll have probably, I don't know, well, when you're 100, like everybody else is dead, you know, like all your homies are dead at 100, you know? So it's just gonna be a bunch of family, probably about 50 people. We have a pretty large family. And I was thinking about what I was gonna say. Obviously, I've been thinking about that a lot this week, but I'm also just thinking about what people are gonna feel. And this is amazing to me that there is not one person there that doesn't have peace with her. This is crazy, that every single person that's there felt like they were at peace with her. There wasn't nobody in the family that had beef with her, because she would go as far as she needed to go. She let people live with her. She let people borrow money. People had stolen money. People had taken advantage of her. But yet she continued to go even further. And at her funeral tomorrow, everybody there is going to celebrate her and say, that is a person you can look up to. That's a person that I had peace with. And I would imagine at the end of your life, that's what you want as well. Some of you are like, I'm gonna be dead, I don't care, homie. You know, maybe so, but I do think that in some way, you want to know that at the end of your life, people had peace with you. And that relationship you have may be too far gone. But I believe that you can have peace about it, even if there's not peace in it. You can have peace about the relationship, even if there's not peace in the relationship, if you choose to go as far as you can go and take on whatever it is that depends on you. And we can do that because we have a Savior who did that for us. So do we have any questions back there on the monitor, Dalton? Here's the first one. We haven't previewed these. Okay, here we go. Oh, all right, we skipped to the next one. Back to the first one. What do you do if your family doesn't like your SIG-O, significant other, but abbreviations, people, but you want to bring them to Thanksgiving? Great question. What do you do if your parents don't like your significant other and you want to bring them to Thanksgiving? Well, let's see, you got two choices really, right? You could bring them and make everyone mad, or you could not bring them. I guess a third option would be you could not go as well. No, I think you got to make a judgment call. You got to make a values call here, unfortunately. And maybe there's something you can do to try to pave the way on the front end. Maybe you could have some hard conversations with mom or dad or stepmom, stepdad and say, hey, help me understand what would need to change about this person for you to feel like you could accept them. Maybe you could ask, hey, can you help me understand what is it that you don't like about them? I know that's hard to talk about, but maybe if you could open up that conversation, open up the dialogue beforehand, you might learn something. And maybe you could ask for a chance and say, hey, would you be willing to just give them a chance this holiday season, this Thanksgiving season? Maybe they have real concern for you, and it's out of love for you that your parents feel the way they do. And if so, I think you got to take that as them loving you. And maybe if you feel like you can understand how they feel, I mean, whenever you get on the other side and try to understand why would they feel this way about my significant other, then I think you got to figure out, you know what? maybe that's something you should pay attention to. And maybe you say for this particular Thanksgiving, hey, it's too hostile at home, like we're gonna keep dating, but let's do Thanksgiving at our separate families this time. If it's gonna create that much drama with the family, maybe you just take one for the team and say, you know what, that's cool. Like it's a day, it's 2 days. Like I'm gonna eat a bunch of turkey and I'm gonna be passed out anyway, so from the turkey. So what else do I need to do, you know? But I just think you need to consider, I think it's great that you're thinking about it now, whoever that is, just to go, hey, I wanna figure it out now, because maybe there's some conversation you could have, or maybe there's some conversation you could have with your significant other. What if you've done everything you can to live at peace, but your family still doesn't come your way? I think that's a great question, and that's a lot of people. A lot of people are in that situation. I think, for one, I would ask the question, well, is this person an addict? Is this person, do they have some mental health challenges? Because a lot of times there's other problems, there's other challenges in the mix. But if it's just, no, like they're stubborn and they just won't make any moves, and I've tried to take some steps their way and they won't return my phone calls, I do believe there's a time where you draw a boundary for yourself and you say, you know what, that's as far as I can go. Like I can't, like going any further would be sacrificing myself, would be being irresponsible to me. And you might be at that point. I wouldn't make that decision. I mean, the beauty of this church is that we really talk about groups a lot. So I know a bunch of you are in a group. If you're not in a group, then we want to talk to you tonight, not to like lecture you, but to help you get into a group. That sounded bad when it came out. Like, we want to talk to you tonight, okay? So, no, we would love to help you get in a group. But I think that's the beauty of having a small group, is helping, letting people weigh in on it and listen to your situation, because there is a chance that you feel like you've gone really far, but you hear about somebody else's story and they go, oh, that's nothing compared to all that I've had to do. And then you go, oh, well, maybe there's some more steps I can take. But I certainly wouldn't say, hey, you need to completely bend over backwards as far as you can and be a doormat and be walked all over. No, that you need to have some security in yourself and potentially draw some boundaries, yet at the same time be open to the fact that maybe there's another step you could take. Maybe there's something else you could do. Here's let's do this question and maybe one more after this. Do you have any ideas for helpful boundaries I could put around time with my family without offending them? I mean, I just think expectations are everything, right? So I think just asking your mom, calling her up and being like, hey, Mom, how do you see Thanksgiving going? And if she's like, well, I figured you would roll in on Monday and leave on Sunday afternoon, then you might want to be like, you know what, Mom, like let's just talk about that, because I've got a job and a life and you're hard to be around. So let's discuss all that. No, but I do think you can ask that question. I think just asking it up front and saying, hey, Mom, what are your expectations? My wife, she has to do that with her parents, to just say, hey, they're big dreamers. They have big plans. They love the idea of it all. And they oftentimes have thoughts about Thanksgiving that we didn't realize, that we didn't know, and then all of a sudden you're disappointing them and you didn't even know they had the thoughts, right? So I think just asking them is really, really key. And if they do end up having expectations about time that you feel like is unreasonable, I would definitely run it past some other people and be open about it and be like, hey, do you think it's unreasonable for me to be at my parents' house all day Thursday? And maybe you have friends that are like, that's actually not that bad, you know? And you're like, okay, that seems all right. Or maybe they're like, hey, is 4 days unreasonable? And then maybe you can work it out ahead of time and just be like, hey, Mom, because of the situations I've got, or the responsibility, or because I want to make sure that I leave. My wife and I always talk about, we want to leave when things are good, not have to leave because things are bad, you know? So for us, we just know that about 3 days with each other's family, that's a really good amount. And anything past that, and it starts smelling like rotten milk, right? So for us, that's kind of just a little guardrail that we have, but we've got little kids and there's grandparents and all that involved. So I just think talking about it up front is really, really key. Here's the last question. Is isolation a peaceful route? What if not engaging is more beneficial than trying to repair the situation, even if you're the mediator in the family? I do think there are times where isolation is appropriate. But again, I think you need to talk to somebody about this. I would never isolate yourself or try to remove yourself from a relationship because that's better than trying to repair the relationship without getting advice from someone. I mean, it's the beauty of counselors. Everybody should be talking to a counselor. Everybody should have friends in your life that you're talking to. Everyone should have dependable relationships, not people that like their lives are completely messed up and you're taking advice from them. No, people who are making sound decisions in their life. I think asking them, hey, this is what's happened in the past. This has been damaging. And because of that, I feel like for the next 3 months, I think I need to say, you know what? We're just gonna give this a break for the next 3 months. Is that ever appropriate? Well, I think that is sometimes appropriate. In fact, sometimes that's what you need to do, because sometimes that separation can create some space that might allow people to heal and get both of you in a better place. I would be very weary of making that decision alone and not making that decision with people that are really healthy that can advise you. But certainly there are times to say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna put up a boundary. There's gonna be a door handle on the door, and the handle's on my side, not on your side, because I've been the one that has been hurt. But again, it's always made in the context of wisdom with other wise people. Here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to pray for us tonight. And if you feel like that you would love to be prayed for, I would love to pray for you. If you feel like you've got a situation, you've got a relationship, and you're just not sure how it's gonna go, I'd love to pray for you. And if you feel like everything's pretty healthy, I would love for you to maybe pray for somebody around you that's thinking about a situation that they have that is gonna be hard. Because honestly, there is nothing, maybe almost nothing in life that is more emotional than family, right? I mean, it's crazy. There's just something about it that brings up all kinds of emotions. But I really believe that this Thanksgiving season and this Christmas season can be the best ever. And that's my hope for you. And I believe that's what God wants for you. So let's pray together. Hey, just while your eyes are closed and your head's down, if that's you, if you feel like, hey, I'd love for you to just pray for me because my situation is really rough, would you mind just raising your hand real quick? That's awesome. Heavenly Father, just for every person that just had their hand up, God, my heart just breaks. And I know it's not easy. And I would imagine that if we passed the microphone around and shared the stories, that it would just be tragic. So God, for every heart that feels hurt, I just pray that even right now that you would bring your healing. God, your love really is the greatest way for any one of us to be healed, to know that we have a Father who loves us. So God, I just pray that you would do that. God, even in this moment, God, help each one of us that just raised our hand just to feel the beauty of the fact that you loved us when we were unlovable. You came after us in love because you cared. And God, I pray for a lot of wisdom. I pray that you would give each person, God, just an extra measure of wisdom. Help them to see the situation like you would see the situation. Help them to see the other person the way you see them. Maybe that means accepting an apology that has never been given. Maybe it means I'm gonna love this person despite that they're maybe never going to love me back. I'm going to forgive this person even though they don't deserve it. God, I pray that if there's any communication that needs to take place, that maybe even tonight, maybe tomorrow, that they would have the courage to do it, to make the phone call, to send the text, to write the note, to maybe even send the email, to take that first step to pursue. God, I pray that all of us would be motivated by you, that you came our way. When we were dark, you brought your light to us. And God, you still do that every step of the way, every single day. And God, more than anything, I pray that each one of these people would be able to feel a little bit of hope, that each one of these friends would be able to feel a little bit of peace about the relationship, maybe even the promise of peace or the potential of peace that they might be able to see on the horizon. God, more than anything, I just pray that tonight would be a night where our spirits are lifted, where we feel better because we're together with other people. And we would experience your love and your grace and your kindness and your forgiveness. And we love you, and we thank you for Jesus. And we pray all this in his name. And everybody said, amen. Awesome. Hey, thanks so much for being here. If it's your first time tonight, go see the one and the only, the man with the greatest personality on planet Earth, Will Intrican. He's in the back. We got a gift for you if it's your first time. If it's not your first time, we still love you, and hang out and hang on. And we'd love for you to be back here next week. Bring somebody with you. It's going to be really, really great. You guys are awesome. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great rest of the week. Later.